The Nintendo Switch 2 effect, or more like the Nintendo Switch effect, could hit Metroid Prime 4 to the tune of the series' best performing selling game of all time. Now, we did see this previously with Metroid Dread, and for those who don't know what the Nintendo Switch effect is or was, is that anytime that you got a brand new game on the Nintendo Switch platform, Nintendo's best selling platform of all time, and even before it was, we would see a new, I would say, sales record, and things went considerably better for the performance of the game, interest in the game. A lot of times the reviews would be pretty good as well for multiple different longtime franchises, from Animal Crossing to 3D Mario to Super Smash Bros. To The Legend of Zelda, and of course Metroid with Metroid Dread. So could that same Nintendo Switch effect now transferring over, or more like sharing the spotlight with the Nintendo Switch 2, could that same effect happen with Metroid Prime 4 now that we're getting two major Metroid games in the same-ish type of generation, with Metroid Prime 4 coming to the Nintendo Switch 1, and of course the next generation for Nintendo, at least, with the Nintendo Switch 2. So pretty much Metroid Dread beat out every single other game with a singular release on the platform with Metroid Dread on the Nintendo Switch 1, and many are wondering how this game is actually going to do. Well, I want to provide a little bit of context to that, and it's to going over a number of different things that could happen that I do think is interesting. And stay tuned, because I do think that there's one point here when it comes to what Nintendo is expecting that a lot of people don't understand with Metroid Prime. We're going to go over some of the facts directly from the people involved, or more like people that used to be involved as well. So if you look currently right now, and how is Metroid Prime 4 doing? Well, right now you can't really tell too much. The pre-orders aren't really going to be locked in. We don't see how it's going to do on the eShop right now, and I'm pretty sure it'll shoot right up to #1 when it does become available for the pre-order overall on the eShop and the preloads and all of that. But right now on Amazon here in the US, it's currently the 9th best selling game overall on new and upcoming releases, and it's the 5th best selling Nintendo Switch 2 game, not including accessories and systems, with the Nintendo Switch 2 specific list. So it seems to be doing okay. There are a number of games when it comes to Black Friday, or when it comes to games that already released, that are getting pretty much the bulk of the sales right now. But Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, in terms of pre-orders on Amazon, seem to just be doing okay. So we'll see how that goes going forward. On Amazon Japan, Metroid Prime, or the Metroid series, just isn't quite as big in that country, but it's still the 13th best new selling game and upcoming releases. So we'll see how much better it does as it gets closer. Right now, Japan is in Kirby Mania, though, with Kirby Air Riders launching recently. So pretty much the amiibo and controllers and the digital game and everything is just all Kirby kind of right now in Japan. And rightfully so. Kirby's awesome. So I do think that that game's going to do really well when we see it in the Famitsu sales charts next week. All right, let's talk about this when it comes to Metroid Prime 4, because there's been a lot of controversy that some are expecting to potentially negatively impact Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, but I actually don't think it's going to do that. With the whole Miles MacKenzie situation, I actually think the controversy can help sell it more overall. We actually did see some controversies with Metroid Dread, the $60 for 2D, and some of the other things with the game, and it ultimately ended up being a good thing for the game because it sold better than any previous Metroid game. And another thing that you have to also factor in here is that the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond game is going to have the largest install base ever for a Metroid game to sell on, between the 150 million units plus on the Nintendo Switch 1 and the already 10 million units plus on the Nintendo Switch 2, and a whole generation to sell as well. So I do think that this could ultimately be really good for it because of the controversy, help profiling it more people talking about the game, more people discussing the game. So here's the thing. The hardcore fans that are upset, and I would say even somewhat rightfully so in some of the cases, like, I understand there are definitely valid points to be made when it comes to some people thinking like, I don't want other characters like Miles MacKenzie in there talking or saying things. However, a lot of those hardcore fans, that have been waiting for years or have been waiting for a decade plus for a brand new numbered Metroid Prime game, because it's been like 17, 18 years since the last one, Metroid Prime 3, they're going to buy it no matter what. And if they end up hating that part of it, okay, they end up hating that part of it, but there's going to be a lot of things that they love as well. If you just look at the preview, it's Metroid Prime. There's a lot of the things that make Metroid Prime, but now we actually have really good graphics, and we have HD Rumble 2, and we have all these things that I think that are going to make the experience even better. There's also mouse mode as well, 120 frames per second at 1080p docked or 4K 60, and you can even get 120 FPS on the Nintendo Switch 2 in handheld mode as well if you want it. So a lot of these hardcore fans that love Metroid Prime for what it is, they're going to buy the game regardless. It does not matter at all. And a lot of the people that aren't into Metroid Prime as much, they're looking at this controversy and thinking, well, a lot of other shooters or a lot of other games have this when it comes to Halo or when it comes to any other title out there. Maybe I'll give this a try. And it looks really good. It actually looks great, plays great. We know it's going to play super smooth. And I've seen so much of Metroid Prime before, but never given a shot. But maybe I'll finally give it a shot here on this brand new system if I have it, or maybe I'll just give it a shot on my Nintendo Switch 1, because it's still gonna look and play good on there as well. So having some type of cohesive narrative, a bit built through multiple characters, while also having the isolation that Metroid Prime games have, I think that's the delicate balance that I think can actually bring together or bring in multiple new players, but then also still have the hardcore fans that like that isolation, that like that type of Metroid Prime feel to the games. But I do think that having a cohesive narrative with other characters and kind of building something to where Samus is a hero, trying to build Samus into that, as we saw with that one shot of her holding her hand out to someone else, I think that can actually get new people in. And already the people that love Metroid Prime, they might hate certain aspects, but they're still going to buy it, and they're still probably going to really like the game, because if you watch the raw gameplay, man, it is sleek, it is smooth, and if you're a Prime fan, this is right up your alley. I mean, you are chomping at the bit to be able to play this overall. So I do think that the controversy ultimately will end up helping the game do better than actually hurting it. Now, let's talk about Metroid Prime 4 and the cost of this game, because this has been a really big talking point, that Metroid Prime 4 could cost upwards of $100 million from start to finish, because the game originally was being developed probably for like the Wii U or right there with the Nintendo Switch, and then that version with Bandai Namco and who they were working with, that version was scrapped because it ultimately did not meet Nintendo's quality standards for this franchise, at least. So they scrapped it, they rebooted it with Retro Studios, the original developers of Metroid Prime, and then they hired a ton of talent to come in. You've got people from Uncharted series, you got people from Call of Duty, you've got people from Halo, you've got people that have experience making all these different types of blockbuster AAA games in the industry. Some of the best talent out there, they went to Retro Studios over there in Texas, and they put in work for this game. So yeah, it's been a while. It's been like 8 years. So yes, the game is probably expensive. So many are thinking that this game has to sell a ton for Nintendo to be happy or for the series to continue, but that's actually not the case overall. I know it sounds crazy, but that's not the case. The thing about it is that Nintendo knows that this game isn't going to sell like Mario or Zelda or even like Mario Party or even like Splatoon. It's not going to sell that crazy amount. They want to bring new people into their ecosystem and add a variety and different style of game to their software lineup that's different from what they usually do. This is directly, when it comes to what I'm saying here, from one of the Metroid Prime developers. He actually produced Metroid Prime 2, Mr. Brian Walker. Kiwi Talks, Mr. Reese Riley, he is a game developer interviewer. He's interviewed over 150 plus game developers, and he's done a lot of work when it comes to talking to Retro Studios developers and just kind of being in the know with that. Metroid Prime is his favorite franchise. So I want to go over what he said first, and then I'm going to play you guys the clip of what was said from Mr. Brian Walker on this topic. So on Twitter, Kiwi Talks said this: for people that are on the edge regarding Metroid Prime 4 sales, don't worry. Nintendo doesn't just look at sales when it comes to Metroid. Part of the IP's purpose is to bring a different demographic into Nintendo's ecosystem. Here is the producer of Metroid Prime 2 and 3 stating exactly that, straight from the horse's mouth. All right, let's take a look at what Mr. Brian Walker had to say here.
Would it be fair to say that it's a bit worrisome in terms of the sales of the franchise, because obviously costs are increasing, but the franchise tends to just still be selling at the same level? I think Dread sold 3 million, so that's good, but I don't know what the budget was.
One of my most influential mentors over the course of my career was Ben Gordon at EA. And when I was part of a mentorship program and got to talk to him a lot, learned a huge amount from him. He's just a fantastic individual. But he was also able to get me in as a fly on the wall into a lot of really high-powered board meetings and director conversations. And I quickly started to understand that even if you can't dominate a space, even if your product is not topping the charts, it's important that you still occupy a space. Even in chess terms, a pawn at e4 is still going to affect the middle. It's just a pawn, but it still has a presence. And so that presence, even if you can't dominate the middle, that pawn, that occupation is still valuable from a corporate standpoint. And that's when we start talking about the high level considerations of stock pricing and so forth. So it's having a presence is often just as important as dominating a space with chart toppers.
Right. So even though Metroid doesn't sell on the level of, say, Zelda or Smash Brothers, it's still important to Nintendo, primarily because of what it represents in the genre. And I suppose it represents a different audience, maybe a mature audience, more so than some of the other stuff.
Yeah, it represents a very high quality standard within a more mature audience.
So with that being said, there are things that can be done to help increase the profile or sales of this game over the short and long term. So the Nintendo Switch 2 effect, which I've talked about when it comes to the Switch system itself, the install base, and of course the drive for people to try something that's a bit different from what Nintendo usually does. But reviews are also a major factor here as well. They can increase or decrease sales. It can go either way, or it can kind of just be like a straight line type of thing to where it's not helping or not hurting. But most of the time, reviews can increase sales quite a bit when it comes to Metacritic. Now, Metacritic is not the be all end all. You can have a game that has like a 70 average on Metacritic and you think it's the greatest thing ever, and that's completely fine, or it can do really well. Or there's games that can have really bad Metacritics but still ultimately end up doing really well. But I do think that hardcore games, core titles like this that don't have the massive audience like other games, reviews can absolutely help increase things quite a bit, especially when it comes to people trying out something that they have not played before. So Metroid Prime, especially numbered Metroid Prime games, those games review incredibly well. Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3 have some of the best review scores and actually has never gotten underneath a 90 on a numbered Metroid Prime game. So I think it'd be a tall task for Metroid Prime 4 to get that 90 and above. A lot of games don't get that. A lot of Nintendo's games do not get 90 plus above. They will have a handful of games that actually get that 90, and it's usually like Mario, Zelda, Super Smash Brothers, maybe Animal Crossing can kind of get in there, but it's really hard to get that. So the franchise usually has these incredible scores, and there might be some people that are pretty salty about the Miles MacKenzie thing when it comes to reviewing, so I'm not going to bank on it having a 90 plus score. What I'm expecting is more of a high 80s-ish, maybe a mid to high 80s-ish, and I think that would be really good for this game, especially considering where it lands in Nintendo's timeline overall. If you look at the Nintendo Switch 2, you've got Mario Kart World with the mid to high 80s, Donkey Kong Bonanza with a 90 plus, I think about 91 at this point, so that's really good. Game of the Year nominee type of title. Then you have 3 straight games with high 70s, almost identical scores between Pokemon Legends EA, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, and Kirby Air Riders. All of these games I've played through. When it comes to Hyrule Warriors, I'm actually still playing through it. I'm about 20 hours plus in. It's getting really good overall. Pokemon Legends EA I like a lot. I think that game's very good as well. And Kirby Air Riders, I just started picking up and playing the road trip mode. I like that game too. But all of those games are essentially 8 out of 10 type of games, and that's completely fine overall for those type of games. So it would be nice after 3 straight pretty much identical 78-ish type of scores that Nintendo can get back to a mid to high 80s or maybe even low 90s. Like once again, Mario Kart World with that, I think 86 last time I checked. I'll double check for you guys. And Donkey Kong Bonanza with that 91. So that would just be awesome. I think it would be a good cap off to the year. You've got some incredible major franchises launching with good scores. Donkey Kong, Mario Kart. You've got Pokemon that's been incredible when it comes to sales and pushing the system with the bundle. Then you also have some great, I would say, spin-off type of games. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, Kirby Air Riders has its own niche of fans that are really excited about that game. And then, of course, Metroid Prime 4, which also has a different tone and vibe to it. So I'm really hoping that it can have a high 80 score. Now, the goal, what would be incredible for the sales to where you can really have that Nintendo Switch effect, is if this game has a 90 plus. If it has a 90 plus, then it gets into some people's Game of the Year discussions and all the different things that would be great for just talking about the game more and getting it out there. So I do think that if you combine a lot of the stuff that I talked about here when it comes to the Nintendo Switch effect, you combine that with the discussions around the game and great review scores, and of course it looks and plays incredible, I think that's a winning formula for this game to do really, really well. So we'll see what happens overall. I'm looking forward to playing it regardless of the score or anything. I'm going to be playing this game like crazy, even though I do get a little bit nauseous when it comes to first-person games. I will have my Dramamine on tap ready to go, just so if I do get nauseous while playing, I'll be okay. So what do you guys think overall about what I had to say here with Metroid Prime 4 and the potential Nintendo Switch effect, or Switch 2 effect at this point? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.